Have you guys ever watched the highest ranked players in the game, like Eido or Zergi? What makes these players so good? Is it their insane movement? Is it their precise aim? Or is it their builds? Spoilers, it is none of the above. The skill gap between you and them is not actually as big as you think. And with the 5 tips in this video, you will not only get better fast, you will also climb ranks in no time. Guaranteed. Let's get right into it. What's up friends, this is Metro. I've been playing high level Deadlock for the last 2 minutes and today I'm gonna give you everything you need to know about Deadlock and the biggest mistakes you do, everyone does, all the way up to Eternus. If not, you can report me to Yoshi. Let's get right into it. And I'm gonna start with the number one thing that most players do not do in Deadlock that really holds them back, and that is taking more team fights. Eternus players are really good at knowing their limits. They know when to back out, but if you watch any high Eternus game, you will notice in a lot of teamfights compared to any other rank in the game, people will stick around with low HP almost always. Basically every single person I've coached all the way up to low Eternus, I see people use their abilities, get their damage out, and then they play safe and back out, go back to base, farm jungle, push a side lane, etc. Whereas if you're doing it correctly, staying in the fight, even with low HP, in a safe position, will net you way more kills, okay? In scenarios where you're 1 HP even, if the enemy is down to 1 player, 2 players, and you come in from the sideline and, you know, use your second ability again, yes, you might die for it, but you will win a lot more fights. On a very basic level, taking more fights will also just make you better at the game. A lot of people play the game of Deadlock where they do laning stage and then they farm for a bit, right? And then they farm a bit more, and then they have like 1 or 2 team fights in the game, maybe like 4 or 5, but they're not really actively looking for engagements. And you want to think about this as your time invested. At the start, you might end up losing fights because of your micro, because you're not hitting abilities, or because your movement is bad, right? But the only way to learn to win the fights is taking the fight. Most characters in the game really benefit from fighting way more than farming. We'll get into that more later down the line in this video. You will learn in the long run. It's called limit testing. I call it limit testing, and every single Eternus player has limit tested time and time again. And that's how they're so good at knowing which fights they can take. You will never know if you can get away with the fight if you don't take it. Which brings me right into my next tip, which is stop farming jungle. Now, there's a caveat, sinner sacrifices are really good. But in general, jungle right now is really weak. We're talking about all creep camps on the map that are not sinner sacrifices. Even if you're really efficient and fast at farming them, they will give you less money than lane, they will give you less money than sinner sacrifices, and in most cases, they will also give you less money than running boxes. So again, if you're spectating any high-level lobby, what you will notice is most characters in the game will very rarely be in the jungle. Jungle should really be reserved for the hard carries, which right now is something like a Venator, a Geist, a Wraith, or a 7. Just characters that can farm the jungle efficiently. Most other characters in the game really can't, so you're actually not only getting less money than you could have, you're also making it harder for your team to win the game because they should realistically play around the objectives that really matter, which is first and foremost earn and walkers. So in practice, what that means after the 8-minute mark when the sinner sacrifices spawn, if you're still occupied in the laning stage, you can go out of your way and farm a sinner or 2, especially if you're a carry. But if there's other stuff to do on the map, if there's an urn fight going on, if you can pick up the urn, it is better to look for those. Even if there's no fight going on right now and the urn is despawned, there's better ways for you to spend your time, which is probably rotating into something like the enemy jungle, trying to steal their sinners, or catching an enemy that is farming, like the person I just described you not to be, that you can then just kill and get the full unsecured soul value from them. Most characters in this game are designed in the mid game to be really fighting, and right now the state of the macro really is push waves first, and then look for teamfights, look for ganks, look for objectives. And I can only really emphasize this, it might feel to you like if you're the only person on the team looking for fights that it will be hard, but in the long run it will net you more wins and it will make you climb. What you can also do is encourage your team in voice chat or text chat to look for those objectives, right? Run the urn, look for a fight, look to invade the enemy jungle. Playing an active game is way better than playing reactively on any level in the game, okay? So stop sitting in your own jungle. You will not get ahead that way. You will not catch up if you're behind either. If you're behind, you want to look even more actively for single target pickoffs, gank S3 or 4 to give your team the comeback, or run the urn, get a comeback urn and get yourself back that way. I see way too many people just sitting in the jungle and farming non-stop. And I know that this is an issue in every rank because I've watched every rank play the game. It is an issue even up to Eternus, and I get frustrated with my teammates sometimes, which leads me into tip number 3, and it's kind of on the same page as the first 2 points, which is stop being scared of dying. We are not playing Call of Duty here, and KD in this game, kill to death ratio, is actually really unimportant compared to other stats in the game. The way you want to think of any stat in this game is it's somewhat of an indicator of how well you're doing, but there's other things in the game that will be way more important. And I'll give you a few scenarios where death is actually good for your team. Scenario number 1 would be dying for an objective. If you push a walker and you get the kill on the walker, but you die for it, that's good. If you die for multiple enemies using solo ults on you, that's good. I had a game the other day where I was really strong and the entire enemy team was so scared of me that they continued using like 3 ultimates on me. I got solo Black Hold, I got solo Lash ulted, and I died in a lot of these fights. But because the enemy invested so many of their resources into killing me, my team was then able to clean up the fight and we won the game really easily, okay? So scenario number 2 is dying for multiple ultimates is a really good thing. Also, dying 1 for 1, if you're down gold, is always good, okay? The way comeback gold works in this game is if you're behind, every source of income that you get will be increased compared to the enemy. So if you can die for anyone that is above your net worth, especially if the enemy team is above your net worth in general, it is a really good death, and trading 1 for 1 in that scenario is a really good thing. Another example of a good death would be dying on the side lane while there's 4 or 5 people ganking you in the mid game. Now you might think, Metro, I just got caught on the side lane, the enemy killed me, I was out of position, there was a bad play. But in the mid game, when your respawn time is still kind of short, if the enemy really invests like 3-4 people to come over and gank you, and then you can live for a bit and then die, yeah, your KD just went down by 1, right? You might have 0 kills and 1 death now. But if you're considering the time investment of the enemy, they just sent 4 people for multiple seconds, if not minutes, to get a kill on you. Your team can do so much on the map during that time, right? Like if the enemy has 4 people on a lane just to kill 1 person, that means other lanes are being pushed in, you might be able to get walkers, you might be able to get a free earn, or you might be able to steal the enemy sinner sacrifices, the enemy jungle, and the time investment, if you do the math, is just not worth it for the enemy team. Because they have 1 kill split up between 4 people, the assist goal on 4 people is really low, whereas your team can solo farm lanes, right? They're not missing out on creep waves, they're not missing out on extra farm, and they're not missing out on other objectives. And all these things have one thing in common that I just named. They are game-winning plays that will make you win more games and climb in the long run. I know this is especially an issue when people come from other shooters or hero shooters, where KD is actually a good indicator of this. But in this game, I've had teammates that went 0-10 and I would have considered them a carry. Now, of course, if your teammate runs it down over and over, runs into the enemy team and feeds and gets nothing in return, right? That's bad, okay? I'm not saying go feed. I'm saying dying in this game is a resource like any other resource, and if it makes sense for you to die, you should rather die rather than to back out, do nothing, and get nothing with the time you just invested, right? So just to back that up, there is statistics in the game. There's a website called StatLocker where you can look into KD and other stats and how they affect people's rank and how they affect people's effectiveness in the game. And what you will notice is a lot of the top players, Zergy or any Eternus 6 really, will not necessarily have a better KD than average. A lot of them are lower than average KD, right? So they die more or get less kills per death than the average player, but they're all higher rank. The stats you should actually look out for that will kind of indicate how well you're doing is actually objective damage, damage to enemies, and healing depending on your hero if you're a support. You can click on every specific hero you play, you can see in which percentile of those stats you're on, and you will notice that KD again does not really indicate any value. My KD, for example, is really bad compared to the average player. It's like bottom 30%, and yet I'm Eternus 6. Even the top players in the game, like top 10 players, have below average KDs, but what will always be the same is that they have a lot of damage in the game, a lot of objective damage, and a lot of healing. And those stats are more indicative of you doing well. Don't worry about stats too much, but definitely consider your life as a resource and don't go out of your way just to live and let your entire team die. I love providing educational content, and it really means a lot to me that it resonates with so many people. And with the Deadlock Academy, we are going to provide the best content on the internet for coaching in Deadlock, period. I offer classes every week to help you time in no time, and we also have many more courses by hand-picked pro players and pro coaches. And there is really no better people I could think of to help you teach the game to make you a better player. We also do weekly coach scrims where you jump in to improve while just playing the game. Right now there's a 30-day free trial. Just try it out, see how it goes, and I think the results will speak for themselves. Tip number 4, and this is again how every single team in low rank loses after they're ahead, is don't mindlessly attack walkers or their base. I see this so many times where one team is ahead and maybe they even get mid-boss, they get 3 rejuves, and then the next thing they do is, oh, I guess we're gonna push the enemy walkers or the enemy base, and then they push, and then they're wondering why they lose the team fight even with rejuves, and they end up giving the gold lead back to the enemy and end up losing. The way walkers and especially the base works in Deadlock is it's very defender-sided, okay? It's very defender-sided. Walkers give everyone that is around on the defending team resists. Both spirit and bullet resist. So if you take a fight under their walker, not only will you have to do with the walker shooting you, stomping you, you will also have to deal with every single enemy player that is attacking you being buffed, okay? So what should you do instead if you have a lead and you want to finish out the game? The first thing you always want to do is look for enemy kills, okay? If you get a kill or 2, then you can start pushing walkers that are still up for free. If you can't find a kill on enemies, you want to take their entire jungle. At that point, you cut off every single resource the enemy can accumulate other than lane creeps, and they're going to be forced to sit in base. And at that point, your gold lead will increase, and eventually at some point, when you're up like 20, 30, 40k, then you can actually pretty safely push the base. What usually ends up happening though is, if you do what I just told you, if you look for kills or if you invade the enemy jungle, someone on the enemy team is going to be stupid enough to be caught out, you get a free kill, right? And then you can start getting the rest of the objectives for free. There's one other time where it's great to push the walker, and that is when every single wave is pushing into the enemy walkers. That's when you really want to take the aggression, even if you're on even playing field. Because if you have that much map control, if every wave is pushing into the enemy walker, it's going to be very hard for the enemy to defend efficiently. If they have to worry about 2 or 3 walkers in total at the same time, chances are they're not gonna split efficiently to defend every walker, right? So what might end up happening is that one walker is completely undefended, you kill it for free, and you might lose another person on another walker, but at that point it's again a good trade, right? Or the enemy does defend every walker, but they lose like 2 of them, and you end up having an efficient trade as well. Only attack objectives if the waves are pushed, and if you have map control, or if you're ahead. And the final tip is, do not counter-buy if you're behind. And that is literally, other than people not taking team fights, the biggest mistake I see in every rank, especially low rank. You might think that is counterintuitive, right? If you end up dying to a really fat warden, why wouldn't you buy metal skin, right? If you end up dying to a really good wraith, why wouldn't you buy spirit resilience? Well, I just watched the Deathy content creator tournament. I watched some of the games going on, which is like streamers, content creators on every rank playing the game. And in one of the games, my friend SK was playing Wraith. She was very farmed and she was doing a lot of damage to the enemies. And then after one team fight, when I was watching her enemies, they were asking like, oh my god, the Wraith is doing so much damage. What do I buy? What's the best counter buy? And then they agreed on buying spirit resilience, right? Which is actually technically correct. Wraith does mostly spirit damage in the current moment, but that is absolutely the wrong thing to do. What actually happened in the fights is that they didn't focus the Wraith, they ignored her, they feared her, right? They ran away from her, and she was just free shooting. If you looked at the way SK built the character, she had like 0 green items, 1 green item, she was very squishy. And what the enemy did is, they just didn't focus fire properly. So how do you handle countering a team that is ahead of you or a player in specific instead? The answer is, you try to focus them first, okay? If the team fight erupts, you want to save your ultimate for that player, you want to actively go into the team fight looking for that enemy player, especially if you're a tank, and you want to encourage your team to focus that enemy player. If you end up buying a lot of counter items instead, right? Like let's say the entire team buys spirit resilience after you just lost a fight to her, what's gonna end up happening probably is you will lose the next fight as well. For the simple reason of you just spent a lot of your money that you desperately need to get more damage for even more defense. And the Wraith is still going to do a lot of damage to you. It's just going to take her a bit longer to kill you, but you won't be able to kill her at all. So what you should have done instead is buy items that will help you kill her. I'm talking stuff like disarming hex, knockdown, anything that can catch the enemy off guard, maybe even a curse, right? And get the kill on her first is usually the better choice if you're dealing with a team that is ahead of you. For the simple reason of, if the team is ahead of you, they will already do more damage than you. So if you end up buying a lot of green items to get more tanky, you will lack even more damage compared to the enemy. And the fight might last a bit longer, it might feel like you're staying alive a bit longer, but in most cases, the enemy will still end up beating you. It doesn't matter if you have a million HP, if you can't do damage to the enemy, they will never die. When should you actually buy counter items? When you're one of the most farmed or if you're the team ahead, okay? Counter items are better if you're ahead, because now you have that extra money to invest into staying alive longer, especially if you're like the most farmed person on your team and the enemy wants to kill you in that scenario. You want to try to stay focused on staying alive, right? Because you're going to do enough damage anyways. You're already really farmed and you're probably really scary in terms of damage, okay? So counter buying is better if you're ahead and worse if you're behind. That's not to say you should never buy any resistances if you're behind. Most people think of it the complete opposite, to where they buy counter items over more and more counter items when they're behind. They don't end up realizing that there's never going to be a way to kill the enemy if you don't have any damage. So try to focus on utility items and items that allow you to kill the enemy, and try to be smarter about actually taking the fight itself. Instead of being scared of that one player, try to start the fight off 6v5 and ideally try to kill the person that is most farmed, because that's how you can come back. Really, just to reiterate every single point I named today, okay, which is people not taking enough team fights, people jungling too much, people being scared of dying, people mindlessly attacking when they're ahead, and people counter buying too much if they're behind, are by far the biggest mistakes I've seen throughout every rank. I've coached hundreds of players at this point, and all of them have that in common, and it goes all the way up to low Eternus. These issues really only stop at the very highest ranks, and even then they still happen, but they are 100% the number one thing that will end up making you win more. Just to end this video off with a little story that should manifest this. There's a guy named Emmisary. He's the best movement player in the game. He recently coached Eido, if you saw that video, right? And a lot of people look at streams and they see flashy movement, right? They see flashy, really precise aim and really good ability usage. And because they see these flashy playstyles, they assume that this is what will make you one of the best players in the game, but that is not actually the case. Emmisary is not even a high Eternus player, which is no shade to him, right? He's insane at movement and he's definitely the best, but it just goes to show that movement by itself does not matter nearly as much as people give it credit for, and the same goes for stuff like aiming or in-game fighting micro, right? What really wins you Deadlock games is the macro, and every single Eternus player you ask will tell you this. I'm struggling with the matchmaking right now. I think most people are, right? Like hopefully there's a matchmaking patch around the corner, it's rumored. So I'm gonna focus more on educational content. Let me know what you want to see next in the comments. I have a lot of videos planned. I want to continue my Hero Guide series, and until next time, see you friends, bye bye.